The Jampack Winter 2002 demo disc contains some pretty popular games from the PS2 era, such as Ratchet & Clank and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. You used to be able to buy copies of this series of demos for $8 each from PlayStation Underground. Demo discs like these used to introduce me and many others to some of the most popular games that would be coming out. Besides the 7 game demos and some promotional videos, there's one more thing on this disc that went unnoticed for 17 years. In December of 2019, Punk7890, a longtime contributor to the cutting room floor, found a hidden version of Dark Cloud that has a fully enabled debug mode. It seems it was left on this disc by mistake, since Dark Cloud had already been released for a long time when this demo was made. It was hard to discover since it's an old demo and it was left on the disc in an unplayable state, under a dummy file. In order to make this playable, you have to copy this file, rename it to match a retail version ELF, and create a new ISO with the rest of Dark Cloud's retail version files. This version boots to the debug menu, which features many options, and it's labeled as Dark Cloud version 2.17, which was made on May 11, 2001. There's a chapter and stage selection to bring you to many parts of the game, where much of the diorama and dungeons have already been completed. However, some parts of this menu will just crash the game or don't work. Selecting Dungeons or Opening are the two options that will crash and close out the game completely, and selecting Interior will bring you to a page that just displays a long list of null, labeled text. The only way into playing the game is through the stage selection, and while in game, there's many special debug tools we're able to use. Here's a quick overview of the controls to use them. There's an active free roam camera you can use to get some good views from, and the dioramas have already been completed in most places, with a layout made by the developers being used. There's also a debug camera that works during cutscenes that we'll take a look at, and here's the controls for those. The cutscene controls are a lot more complex, but you can figure them out after testing for a few minutes. I'll show this feature in use during a cutscene later. First, we'll check out the debug camera. We're able to jump with circle and can also move the camera up and down with the D-pad. You can also rotate with the left and right joysticks. Here we can get a look at the entirety of Norune during the day and nighttime. L3 opens up a small window that shows you a few stats, like the characters and camera position, along with how long the game has been running. They probably used this for testing their positions during cutscenes, so they could change them accurately. R3 will open up the Debug Options menu. There's a few pages of debug tools available, and you can change pages here with the R2 and L2 buttons. The tools include toggling the ability to use the debug camera, parameters like the pause screen, the character's visibility, message visibility, and the different debug camera uses. You can also run in-game events like diorama completion events, as well as running character dialogue events. You can also change the game's language from here. The next page is mostly game completion flags, like completed diorama steps, dungeon floors, and the amount of party members that you've gained. And the last page is the audio debug menu. You can change the background music to whatever track you want. You can also turn it off completely too. You can also play sound effects from here and change the ambient noises like the wind blowing or birds chirping in the background. While in the Items menu, we can turn on the Item Debug menu with Select. With this menu, you can add any item from the game into your inventory. You can also add items that were removed from the game, like the Flame Key, Medusa Powder, and Warp Powder. Hitting Select on the highlighted item will also let you view the 3D model, and you can rotate it with the right joystick. This feature is pretty glitchy and can play awful sounds and make the menu look messy, but it still works without crashing. You can take any weapon, any attachment, and play around quite a bit with stuff you normally would never be able to. All of the quest progression items, all back floor keys, and a lot more are in here. Even Osmond's 2 incompleted launcher weapons can be obtained. We can't test them out in this playthrough, or any other weapons for that matter, since dungeons aren't working. There's a few more interesting items in here we can check out, like the world map and the save book. These have 3D models made for them that we don't get to see anywhere else. There are many placeholders and glitchy items in here. Some of these you can't remove from your inventory once added. It's really not that damaging though, since this is a debug version and you probably won't be playing for long. Going through here, we can add whatever else we need. We could even have unlimited health and defense too if we wanted. The events option can bring you to 3 different places. 0 being where you meet with Osmond once the Sun Giant is built. Event 1 will bring you to the first time where you enter the Moon Factory, and Event 2 will bring you right before where you board the submarine in Queens. Once the event finishes, you're able to continue playing the game from there. Now that we've covered all of the debug menus, there's a few more features we can test out. So we're here in Queens, and normally you can't enter diorama mode here, but in this version we can turn it on, and this also works in some other places where it's usually not accessible. So we can look around a lot more and see things we shouldn't. Some parts are incomplete since they're normally outside of the player's view. Another helpful option is the ability to exit interiors quickly by pressing select. This will take you outside right away instead of having to go through the menu or walking back. And now we're going to test out the cutscene debug camera. We're able to freeze cutscenes with R3, and using the controls I previewed before, we can look around, move characters, and get a better look of the scene. You can zoom all the way out and get a good look of any map or interior that you want. There's also a saving and loading test for memory cards in the menu. They use this to test loading a game, saving a game, and also for saving again once you cleared the game at the end. You won't be able to actually start a game from loading here though. This was probably only to test what happened on the memory card. There's a few save games here, but they're just a part of the test, so they don't change if you save over them. Lastly, there are some unique places we can get to through the scene selection, such as the Moon Arena, the top floor of the Demon Shaft, and some other places you normally can't access. You can also run into the Japanese demo lockout screen here, which shows up when you've played for an hour in the demo. And here's what looks like a test area for Muskalaka's diorama. We can't interact with the houses and can't place or remove any objects, but it does look like the completed version of this diorama. And with that, I'm now going to look at a few more interesting places from the scene selection. I've covered as much as I was able to discover, but there could still be many secrets that haven't been found yet. This was a fun version to play around with, and I hope fans of Dark Cloud like everything that was uncovered. Alright, and that's everything this disc has to offer. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to see more. This is Shastopia, and I'll see you next time.